loss is just as important to a market economy as profit. What does profit tell you? Profit tells you that you did something good. Contrary to all the rhetoric that profit is bad and greedy and all this, nothing could be further from the truth in a market economy. Profit is a sign that somebody has done something very good for other people, because it means that you have taken the scarce resources of this earth and arranged them to produce something that other people, when you bring it to market, sufficiently value that they are voluntarily willing to hand over their money to buy it from you, because nobody can force anybody to buy or sell anything in a market economy. So profit means that you know what you're doing. You haven't wasted resources. You have benefited your fellow man by using them to produce things that other people need or want. Now, losses tell you something very important also, and losses are a necessary part of a capitalist economy, because a loss says you have done something wrong. You have taken the scarce resources of this earth, you have used them to produce goods and services that it turns out other people do not in fact want. That's why you have a loss. You can't make back the money that you put into producing it because other people don't want to buy it from you. You have done something wrong from a social point of view. You have wasted scarce resources. Now, do we need to have anybody step in and punish these people? Or should they punish the people who make losses because they've done something wrong? Or should they reward the people who make profits because they've done something good? No, that's not necessary, because the market is a self-regulating process. It takes care of that on its own. The people who have made profits, who have done something good, they get rewarded by the profit and protected by the rule of law that they can keep it, but they have shown by that profit that they know what they're doing. So now they have even more resources from the profit to invest again, to try it again, which is a good thing, because they are proven winners by the fact of having produced a profit the first time. No guarantee it's going to continue, but there's a good chance. People who have made losses, on the other hand, we don't have to step in and punish them and forbid them from using resources. The market does that on its own, because if you are making a loss, remember, where did the capital come from that you invested in producing the goods and services? It was your very own money that you had saved, your resources that you had saved, the excess of your production over your consumption. So you put that into producing something that turns out you were wrong, other people don't want. You make losses, but what's lost? Your own money. You are deprived of resources. You have fewer resources now because you've made those mistakes. You don't know what you're doing. Nobody has to stop you from doing it again because you no longer have any capital to do it. You've made losses. So see, the market is a self-regulating system where profits allow people to continue to invest and to try to make another profit, and losses take away capital from people who have proven by the losses that they don't know what they're doing and should not be involved in allocating scarce resources. So losses are every single bit as important as profit, because losses show us who is wasting resources and who should no longer be doing that. Unfortunately, in our society today, people want to accept the profit, but they often don't want to accept the loss, the possible losses that are an inevitable part of the market process. So what do we see people doing constantly? Playing on people's sympathies and running to government to ask for protection against losses, right? Businesses, let's just take an example, let's say, we all know that, as we said earlier, consumer tastes often change. 30 years ago, the highest level of communications technology you could have at home for many people was a landline telephone, right? That was, people had all kinds of beautiful landline telephones, but that was it. And there were manufacturers who were in the business of making landline telephones, and some of them very fine, decent people and workers, let's say, that had worked in the factory for 20 years and produced a very good product that consumers wanted to buy, and everything was wonderful. But now what happens? New technology comes along, and what has largely happened? It's made landline telephones obsolete. I mean, a few of us still have them, but increasingly most people have moved over to the cell phones and so forth. So what's happening back there at the landline phone factory? Not very good. Well, how's the market deal with this change? Well, it deals with it by, again, through an automatic self-regulating process. Let's say some of the big box retailers had a whole bunch of landline phones on their retail shelves, and people stop buying them. and they start buying the cell phones instead. So what's happening? At the retail level, you see the retailers will buy the phones from the wholesaler, right, to bring them to their store. They think people are going to buy them. But if tastes change, people are no longer buying those phones. So what's happening? They're sitting there on the shelves in the stores. So what do they do at the retail level? They put them on sale, right? They lower the price. Anytime you see a sale, that's sort of an admission that they made a mistake. They think they can't sell what they thought they were going to sell, so they put them on sale. They'd rather get some money back than nothing. So they put them on sale. The price comes down. So what's happening at the wholesale level? Well, the retailers are certainly not going to order more because they can't sell what they have. So the wholesaler's in even more trouble than the retailer, because now the wholesaler, let's say he put all his money, he has warehouses full of landline phones that he's not getting any orders for because all the retailers are putting them on sale to get rid of the ones they have. The wholesaler's in deep trouble. He's lost an even bigger investment because he can't get rid of those phones that he has. So he's going to take a really big loss. And also, how about the people at the landline phone factory? What's happening there to all these decent, nice people who did nothing wrong? They're not getting any orders for new phones because people don't want to buy them anymore. So if they're not getting any orders for new phones, let's say I'm the owner and you're my employees and I love you dearly. You've been working with me for 20 years and we're like family. But I have to tell you, I don't know what we're going to do. Nobody's buying our product. How am I going to pay you? See, people overlook the all-important fact that the only way that as an employer I can pay you is if people buy our product. All the expenses of the firm are paid for by the revenue that comes from selling our products to consumers. And if they stop buying, I don't have any money to pay you or me or anybody else. And so what's going to have to happen? You are going to have to either go out of business, and you're going to be out of a job, which is sad, and it's nobody's fault. The fault is that consumers no longer want our product. Or maybe some industries can do this, not all of them can, retool and produce something else that people actually do want. In any event, we have to go out of business. We can no longer keep wasting resources producing landline phones that no one wants. But rather than accept that nowadays, we see people, they come on TV with all kinds of, tear-jerking ads about how this firm is going to have to go out of business, or this industry is going to have to go out of business, and they can't pay their mortgage and they can't send their kids to school. And I mean, it is sad. It's a part of life, though. It's a part of a capitalist society that if you're willing to accept the profits, you have to also be willing to accept the losses. But people increasingly don't want to do that. So they ask for, what do we call it? A government bailout, right? They go to an appeal to the public, and then they go to the government, and they ask for a bailout. Well, what's a bailout? A bailout is nothing but the government taking taxpayer money and directing it to pay the costs of the operating costs of firms that are making losses. So let's say I, as the owner of the firm, I don't want to have to fire you all, so I make a big plea, and I'm well connected politically, and I manage to get a bailout for our landline phone company. So I don't have to fire you after all. The government is going to give us money so we can pay for our expenses. Is that a good idea? I mean, we're glad, you're glad. I mean, a few of us are happy, but from a social point of view, is that a good idea? Think about what we're doing here. It's two problems. One is rational, and one is moral. The rational problem is that it couldn't be a worse idea, because getting a subsidy from government to keep us open, what's happening here? We're wasting taxpayer money to produce things and wasting scarce resources to produce things that people no longer need or want, as proven by the fact that we were making losses. Is that a wise use of scarce resources? No, we should use them to produce things that people actually need or want. It's completely irrational. But how about from a moral point of view? Is it the moral or right thing to do, even if it's not the economic thing to do? No, because one of the principles of justice in our society for centuries and centuries and centuries is something we call equal treatment under law, isonomia, but everyone is supposed to be treated by the same rules. Well, as a matter of fact, there are a lot of firms right now and always who are going out of business. For all the success stories that you hear, there are people every single day who take a chance at production and investment, and they fail. They're not able to sell their product. They make losses. Can we bail every single one of them out? Is that even conceivable? No, because we would all die if that happened, because we would not be able to flexibly adjust to the changing circumstances of reality, to continually reallocate resources to those places where people actually need or want them. If we keep producing things in firms that are making losses, we keep producing things that people have proven they don't need or want. That would mean suicide for us as a people. So from a point of view of justice, is it fair that one privileged firm gets to be, or a couple, a handful, gets to be bailed out while all the others have to accept the losses and go under? Now, from our traditional sense of justice, it is not fair. If you can't do it for everyone, you can't do it for anyone. It's special privilege and a violation of justice. So anyway, that's, and just to bring in Robinson Crusoe again to show you, we also have in our society increasing loud and vociferous and even militant demands for the redistribution of wealth. Now, what's redistribution of wealth? Redistribution means the legal transfer of wealth from net taxpayers to net tax beneficiaries. More simply, government taxes certain groups of people, takes the money and then redistributes it and gives it to other groups in society. This is, governments today are largely vast machines of redistribution of wealth. They do this all the time, every day, all day long. All Western democracies take it from one group, the net taxpayers, and they give it to the beneficiaries and so forth. We're going to talk about this as we go forward more, but there are some deep moral problems with this that are not solvable, that people, generally speaking, don't like to think about. But we see that, again, the moral problem then is this unequal application of the law. So back to Robinson Crusoe, as I said. Okay, let's say that I'm a big believer in socialism, for example, and I think we need to have a more equal distribution of wealth. So I, as a legislator or as a member of Congress or whatever, I pass legislation to tax these people over here, take from the higher income earners, and then redistribute that to lower income earners in order to equalize the wealth. Okay, well this will actually destroy the market process. Let's go back to Robinson Crusoe. Let's say we're on the desert island again. There's Robinson, and let's say there's another person there. I'll say my friend Judy. So there's Robinson and there's Judy. And Robinson, as before, and I'm there too. And I'm there sort of as the empress or queen, right, of this little island. So Robinson's out there doing what he's doing. He's trying to catch a fish, the same situation, right? He has got to catch a fish. And the same situation where, and Judy, I don't know what she's doing. She's going around trying to pick some plants or something, I don't know. But he's out there catching a fish. And so he does the same thing as in the first example. One day he manages to catch 2 fish. And so let's say, rather than allowing him to make a decision about whether to save it and then invest it in making a net, I intervene and I say, oh no, Robinson, you don't need 2 fishes. You only need 1 fish to survive. It's not fair. Poor Judy over here has not been able to pick any plants that she can eat. She needs this. She needs the fish. So I'm going to you keep the 1 fish. I'm taking the second, and I'm going to redistribute it from you to her. That satisfies my sense of justice. It's not fair that you have 2 and she has none. So I'm taking the second fish and I'm redistributing it to her. Okay, well maybe I've gratified my passion for social justice, but what have I actually done? I've stopped the process of the potential for economic growth, because I've taken the second fish from Robinson, I've given it to Judy, she's eaten it, he's eaten his. So the next morning what happens, we all wake up and we're back at go. I've destroyed the potential for capital investment. He doesn't have the second fish to save to use the time to build a net. So we're back to go again. I've cut off the process of economic growth right at its root, right? By taking his savings and giving it to her in the name of, justice or social justice. But so you can see here that if we do this on a larger scale in society as a whole, and we take from those people who have been productive, they then cannot invest it in the formation of capital, and therefore it decrease the potential productivity of the nation, not only of themselves. And so it's a recipe in the end for economic stagnation at best and regression at worst. So there are serious consequences to this. We have to be very careful in pursuing policy from a emotional perspective rather than a rational one. As I like to say, emotion is not a good guide for public policy. We have to think through both the short-term and the long-term consequences. An issue to which we return in our next story about the broken window fallacy. In the end for now. Bye.